Class is in session. It's hitting the books. Club Sports Radio, Monday, November 15th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack with you each and every Monday throughout the football season. Ready to take a look at the entire weeknight NFL and college football slate. Many of the marquee games taking place on Saturday, and there are a bunch of them. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, we'll do a brief NFL whip around right at the end of the show. Conor Mack with me as always. Excited. We're down to the last couple weeks of the regular season in college football. A lot of situational, bets are going to be coming around the next couple weeks. Teams looking to get bowl eligible, teams looking to win a division or stay alive in a conference race. So there's going to be a lot of different and good situational games to take advantage of in the final weeks here of the regular season. So without further ado, we'll get things rolling with Tuesday night Maction. That's been the great thing of the last couple of weeks. We've had some MAC football on weeknights, and this week is no different. We'll start with the Western Michigan Broncos taking on the Eastern Michigan Eagles. It's another of these directional Michigan schools, rivalry games, if you will, in the MAC. We had one with Central and Western Michigan earlier this season. Now we got Western and Eastern here with Western Michigan 5-point road favorites, 68 the total in this game. The Western Michigan Broncos, a team that's been on a little bit of a point spread slide the last 3 weeks, Conor, 0-3 against the spread, losing 2 of those games against Toledo and Central Michigan. And last week, they played Akron, and I took the points with Akron, and they were getting a boatload of points in that game, 25 points, in fact, against Western Michigan.
Yeah.
And Akron just took Western Michigan right down to the wire. I remember us talking about Akron, Western Michigan, Conor. Last week, we said the quarterback change for Akron. Look at that offense now with Zach Gibson. Played well, 305 passing yards. We didn't trust Western Michigan's defense, which has had some issues in recent weeks. Not some, a lot. They've given up 31 points now in 5 straight games. 0-3 against the spread their last 3. 1-4 against the spread their last 5 games. The victory against Kent State was impressive, but you sense this team, I don't know if they're leaking oil, if they're running out of gas, but they're just not playing as well right now. And on the flip side for Eastern Michigan, you've got a team that has been up and down as well. I mean, they're off a loss to Ohio, but it's an Ohio team that you throw out the early season numbers. It is a different Ohio team right now. And Eastern Michigan lost outright to them last week, 34-26. But here we go again. And we've said this a million times. Feels like we can pop a tape in the tape recorder and you'd hear the same thing that we're about to say right now. It's Eastern Michigan in the underdog role, and they have been nothing but money in the bank in that underdog role. They won outright as dogs against Toledo. They won outright as 2.5-point dogs earlier in MAC play against Miami, Ohio. This is where you want to be backing this Eastern Michigan team. I like the way the quarterback has played for them. Ben Bryant, the Wisconsin transfer, he's really gotten better throwing the ball the last few weeks. The defense is still a little shaky, no doubt about it, for Eastern Michigan, but you can say the same thing about Western. It does feel like this is a high-scoring game. I get why the total is 68. I would probably lean to the over. There should be points. I think both offenses are better than both defenses, but more than that, I like Eastern here, +5 in this game. Rivalry game. If you took the points in the Central Michigan, Western Michigan rivalry game a couple weeks ago, you cashed with the dog. I think you can cash with the dog here in this game as well. Conor, what do you think? Western, Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, I'll be quick with the MAC. The MAC last week was pretty good to me. I think I went 5-0, and that
it has been good.
I always like that in the MAC because it can get wild and some of these scores can get crazy. But I'm with you here. I mean, this is just no way. I think Western's a little bit the better team. I think they have a little bit better offense, but this is a rivalry, and this is where we talk about every week. This is where we want Eastern because we're always digging into these games. So the early games, the MAC games. So it's Eastern Michigan or just pass. I think Western, like I said, has been a better team. I think this is more like they're a pick 'em, maybe -2. They just give them a little bit because they're the favorite. So yeah, I'm with you here with Eastern Michigan. On the total to 68, I was looking through all these last night. I think it's a little high. Obviously, it could go over. These teams get into the 30s, they'll get over that 68. So, and watch the weather. I've already pulled it up. Here, I just got to get to it. It looks pretty good. Wind is just going to starting to get cold. It's starting to get 38, 40, but not much wind. It looks good. So, yeah, nothing on the total here. Just grab me the points with Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, I agree. I think Eastern Michigan's the side here. This has been a moneymaker. This really been a moneymaker as a dog, really, since Chris Creighton's been there as the head coach. That's really when the success as an underdog started for this Eastern Michigan team. Because, you look at their record, 6-4, you think, that's an all right record. They're above 500. They're a solid, decent team. But hey, solid and decent for Eastern Michigan this year is way better than anything they did before Creighton got here as the head coach. This was a dumpster fire. This was a bottom feeder. This was a hideous football program before he got there. So he deserves a lot of credit in my mind for what he's been able to do. And once again, a winning season, very potential that could happen here. As long as they don't lose their last 2 games and end up 500, they have a chance to have another winning season here at EMU. Toledo and Ohio. We've got Toledo 7-point road favorites here in Ohio, 54 the total in this game. The Toledo Rockets, a team that many thought could win the MAC this year, and they still have kind of disappointed considering what those expectations were this season. But they are coming off an impressive win last week against Bowling Green on the road. 49-17 victory over Bowling Green. We mentioned last week how the Bowling Green defense isn't what it was early in the season, that they've been struggling, and they certainly struggled last week. DeQuan Finn, who's been the quarterback now for Toledo the last few games after they benched Carter Bradley, had a good day throwing the football. And it didn't matter who was lined up under center, whether it was Jaquez Stewart, Micah Kelly, Bryant Kobach. It didn't matter. All 3 backs for Toledo just ran the football right down Bowling Green's throat in that game. They could not stop the run. And when Toledo can run the football, they're going to put points on the board because, again, their quarterback play has been spotty this year. They're a team that needs the run game to be working. And boy, did it work last week in the game against Bowling Green. But now they take on this Ohio team that's just been this little engine that could. Since MAC play started, this was a team that in the first month of the year, they played Syracuse. They got blown out. They lost to Duquesne. Remember that early in the year as an 28.5-point favorite against an FCS team. They got drilled by Louisiana. They got drilled by Northwestern. And at that point, it's like, geez, this team's unbackable. How on earth can you put money on Ohio? Well, if you put money on Ohio ever since that Northwestern game, which was the last of that series of blowout losses, you have cashed almost every game. 5-1 ATS the last 6 games for Ohio, all in MAC play. Beat Akron, lost by only 3 to Central, lost by only a single point to Buffalo, lost by a touchdown to Kent State. That's their biggest margin of defeat in MAC play, is that 7-point loss to Kent State. The other losses were Buffalo by 1, Central Michigan by 3. They beat Miami O as underdogs 35-33 a couple weeks ago, and then they beat Eastern Michigan outright as dogs last week, 34-26. So what's been the key? The key is the offense is working finally. Curtis Rourke's been good. They're running the ball. DeMontre Tuggle's been good on the ground for Ohio. And the defense, while not great, they're showing at least a little bit of improvement in terms of getting timely stops, like in the Eastern Michigan game or the Miami O game that they won. They still struggled to stop those 2 teams, but when they needed a defensive stand late in the game, they got it. And when you're talking about now getting a touchdown with them as home dogs here, with a team that's covered 5 of 6 in conference play, they've clearly been undervalued for weeks. Why do you not just ride it here in this game? So for me, it's only Ohio at +7, especially with Toledo being overvalued and overrated pretty much all season long. They have not played up to expectations. What do you think here, Conor? Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah, too many points here on the road with Toledo. I like them. So you talked about Ohio ripped off 5 of 6 against the number. Real quick on this total, I wanted to touch on right away. You'd think this would be an over, and I think it can get there with a lean, but 6 out of 7 unders for Ohio. And you mentioned that defense bending and not breaking. They're keeping these games, 27-34, 26-27, 30-27, and all 35-33. I mean, they beat Miami, Ohio. They beat Eastern Michigan. That was, huge by 8. I got to take the 7 points here. Just give me the home dog catching the touchdown in this one. I like Toledo. I think they're a little bit better football team. I do think they'll be able to run it, but to win by more than a touchdown here, I got to take the home dog. Give me the home dog here in MAC action Tuesday.
What's funny is that these 2 teams haven't played since 2017, even though they're in the same conference. It's kind of weird. There've been some anomalies here with the schedule, with the way it's happened. But definitely I would look toward Ohio here in this one as well. I mean, why not? 5 of the last 6 they've covered. I say stick with that. Bowling Green, Miami, Ohio. We've got Miami 16, 17-point home favorites here, 51 the total in this game. Bowling Green's definitely, remember they had that incredible point spread run early in the season. Well, it's kind of gone by the wayside ever since then. They've struggled a little bit more against the number, although they've still covered a couple of times. And when I look at this number, Connor, I hate to be repetitive here, but it's another underdog bet for me or nothing in this game. And I know Bowling Green struggled, but they're getting 17 points. They're 5-0 ATS on the road. Hell, they even covered their first game of the year against Tennessee. You know, they beat Minnesota in that shocking upset as road dogs. They hung in there and covered against Kent State on the road as underdogs, lost by 7 as 17-point dogs. They lost by 8 at Northern Illinois as 9-point dogs. They won outright at Buffalo as 13.5-point dogs, 56-44. They're perfect 5-0 ATS on the road, and I think all of them in the underdog role. Well, this is their spot. This is their role here, and I think maybe after Miami looked so impressive last week against Buffalo, drilling them 45-18, that maybe there's been a little bit of an overreaction, you know, to what Miami did last week. And I know Brett Gabbert played well. The offense was just cooking. I mean, 351 passing yards for him against Buffalo. And Bowling Green's defense isn't playing the way it did earlier in the year. I get it. They've given up 44 and 49 and 55 points in their last 3 games. That is alarming. That is concerning here. But I'm leaning Bowling Green with the points, and I'm leaning this game over the total. 51, and it feels like the Bowling Green totals are lower than they should be because of that early season success, especially on defense when they beat Minnesota. But they've gone over the total now in 5 straight games. I say you ride that here. So I like the dog and I like the over. What do you think, Connor?
I'll be quick. This is what I wrote down. I mean, last night it was 15.5, 16. Obviously, we've gone to 17, which is fine with me. I kind of question mark there. Then I wrote total 51. What? With the question mark. That's what I wrote down. So I agree with you. That defense that was so good early on and the unders with Bowling Green, when it's turned to conference play, playing these teams, they've just been an over team. And 51 seems light here. Miami, Ohio has a pretty good defense, but it seems light. And Bowling Green, the only thing is, I think 17 is too much. You know, they've had 2 blowout losses out of the last 3. They did beat Buffalo, but the defense is just getting gashed. But the offense has been able to move the ball, even though they only scored 17 against Toledo. Man, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. I think already at 17, you're good. If you could get 17 on the hook, I think you feel pretty good in this one. Bowling Green's not the team of last year that was just pathetic. Early on, their defense was good. They kind of fell off, but I think this is too many points. So I like the dog here, and I'd only lean over. I think it can get over this total 51.
Yeah, it just seems really low. And look, I know Bowling Green earlier in the year, their defense was pretty good and their offense kind of sputtered and didn't do well. And it's kind of the opposite now. Their offense with Matt McDonald at quarterback has kind of picked it up lately, and the running game has been better, and now the defense has fallen off. So we're both in agreement. This has been money in the bank too, Bowling Green in this road underdog role this year, 5-0. So yeah. I feel that's a few too many points. I've seen this before in MAC play. These teams know each other so well. It's difficult to cover numbers of this margin in MAC play. Just ask Western Michigan last week against lowly Akron, and they were life and death just to win the game as 25-point favorites. It's tough to cover these big numbers as favorites in this conference. That's why when I don't know about you, I'll ask you, Connor, when you're seeing a number like this, double-digit dog, I try to make every case possible for the under double-digit dog before I look at the favorite. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, and then I think of why do they have this team as this big a favorite? It makes me go through everything like multiple times because right away the first look is I want these points. You know, I guess they've regressed a little bit the last few weeks, but Miami, Ohio is not a blowout type team. They're very solid, but all these MAC teams have kind of beat up on each other. You know, some play better against others, so they think they have a distinct advantage here at home, but I think it's just too many here. So yeah, I love the points here at Bowling Green.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we move to Wednesday now. MAC college football. Central Michigan and Ball State. We've got Ball State 1.5, and in some spots it's 2-point home favorites in this game. 62 the total in this one. Both of these. Well, Ball State, this is a big game for them. Bowl eligibility at stake for the Ball State Cardinals. Cardinals here in this one after a really tough loss last week against Northern Illinois, 30-29. Northern Illinois kicks the game-winning field goal on the final play of the game to beat them.
Great game.
Last week. It was a really good football game, no question about that. Wasn't a great game for Drew Plitt. And he's had some great games this year, and he's had some shaky games. It hasn't been a steady, consistent type of season for him. And in fact, the last 2 weeks against Akron and Ball State, he's completing 58 and 42% of his passes. So, it's just not been as good a season. He's actually regressed, I think, a little bit from the way he played last year when he led Ball State to the MAC championship and upset Buffalo in that game. They've not covered in 3 straight going into this game. And now they take on a Central Michigan team that is starting to play better football. You look at their last 5 games, 4-1 straight up. The only loss was a 1-point loss to Northern Illinois. So you've got this Central Michigan team peaking a little bit. This is a tough one. Central Michigan, tough to go against them. They're playing better football. They're starting to win and cover here in conference play. I got to admit that Richardson at quarterback has played well. Lou Nichols, keep an eye on him running the football. He's a terror for the Chippewas, especially lately. Just ask Kent State how it is trying to defend him against the run. Not easy. They're really playing well, but for Ball State, they're back home. They're at 5-5. They need a win here to get bowl eligible. You'd expect this to be a game where Ball State comes in here focused, ready to go. So you got a red-hot CMU team against a Ball State team that's kind of been up and down, but it's a cheap price to me with Ball State. I mean, you would have asked me before the year, Ball State, we expected to be one of the better teams in the conference, and they're only laying less than a field goal at home. It feels like there's value on Ball State. I kind of lean to them, but I do think Central Michigan's in better form right now. So kind of back and forth, but I lean to Ball State a bit. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Shout out to Cheshire Cat with the $5 dono. All that in a bag of tricks. I had to read it, even though you just said it. All right, let's get to the game here. Both these teams, this is interesting. This is a dead pass for me. Ball State's, like you went through it. They need this for a bowl. Both teams, in the last 3 weeks have lost to Northern Illinois by a point, 30-29, 39-38. I think this game is close as well. I mean, if I had to free bet on this one, I'm probably going to stay. I'd take Central. One thing with Central, 3 straight huge overs. All of a sudden, the defense is just falling off. The offense is just still scoring, but it's just going back and forth. So looking at 62.5, I think it's on the money there. But I'd lean only over in this spot. If I would only play the over, I think it could stay short of it, obviously, 31-28, something like that. But I think this can get up and over. And I'd only look at Central Michigan. I know Ball State. You've talked about it. They've just been up, down. I can't really figure them out. I thought they blew the game. I mean, Northern Illinois played really well and won it, but I thought they blew it there, in parts of the second half. So I lean Central Michigan. I lean the over a little bit in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be interesting to see how this goes. I did want to mention, I forgot about the Miami, Ohio game, and that's probably also why they're big favorites. Miami O is neck and neck with Kent State for first in the East Division of the MAC. So it's a big game for them, but still doesn't mean Miami has to win the game by more than 17 points. I mean, that's another thing you want to keep in mind. But they are in a battle for first on the East Division side of the MAC with Kent State right now, and I'm hoping Kent wins that battle, C-Mac, because I got 12-1 on Kent State to win the MAC. So I'm hoping they at least get to the MAC championship game by winning the East Division. And then if we want to bring out the hedge clippers and hedge a little bit, we can do that. But still very much alive with Kent State here to win the MAC this year. Liking that, just that run and gun, extreme tempo offense. Man, that's a fun team to watch. Northern Illinois and Buffalo, the second game on Wednesday night in MACtion. Northern Illinois, 1.5 point road favorites, 63.5 the total in this game. Northern Illinois has definitely exceeded my expectations. I did not think much of this team coming into the year, and it really started with beating Georgia Tech in the first game of the year, and they've had some impressive results. And here in MAC play, been very good, beating Eastern Michigan, Toledo, Bowling Green, Central Michigan. They lost by 5 on the road at Kent State. That's the only loss they've suffered in conference play. And then they bounced back with that thrilling win by a point at the final play of the game, with the game-winning field goal to beat Ball State 30-29. So it has been a great run for Northern Illinois. And look, even Rocky Lombardi's played solid at the quarterback spot. However, it's the run game That's really been key for them. Although Lombardi's picked it up. His overall passing numbers ain't good, Connor, but the last 3 games, like look at the last 3 games. They're averaging 382 passing yards, Northern Illinois. For the
Yeah.
year, they're just averaging 212. So he's picked it up, Lombardi. We
Oh,
got
yeah.
to give him credit. He's not that same Michigan State, Rocky Lombardi that was just absolutely horrendous. He's played better. They're running the football well. Also, this Northern Illinois team averaging, 107. They've actually got way more balance. Early in the year, for the entire year, they're throwing the ball an average of 27 times a game, running it 45 times a game. The last 3 games, all MAC play, they're rushing 43 times a game on average and throwing it 41 times a game. So it's a lot more of a balanced offense now, and that's because they have more faith in Lombardi in the passing game now as he's played better the last few weeks throwing the football. The Buffalo Bulls, a team that I thought would regress this year, wouldn't be as good, and man, it's playing out that way now. 4-6. Leipold took so many of his key players from Buffalo with him to Kansas. It's a team that, especially in the trenches, kind of starting over this year. They've got a mediocre quarterback in Kyle Van Treese. The run game, which he needs to be effective, hasn't been as good this year for the Buffalo Bulls. They're sort of trending in the wrong direction. They've lost 2 in a row to Bowling Green at home, blown out by Miami O last week, 45-18. It's been a struggle for them. They've lost every good MAC team pretty much. Bowling Green, Miami O, Kent State, Western Michigan. They barely beat Ohio by a point, and then they beat Akron. That's the one good blowout win they've had, Buffalo. Other than that, it's been a struggle for Buffalo. And for Northern Illinois, they can clinch the MAC West division with one more win. So you got to expect Northern Illinois is ready for this game. Now, they're going to have another opportunity next week if they lose this game, but I don't think Buffalo's playing well enough to beat this team right now. So I'd only look at the Huskies here as slight road favorites. What do you think here, C-Mac?
I think this is a tricky game here. Northern Illinois, you talked about, exceeded a ton of expectations. Rocky Lombardi, for what he's done there, has just been really good. I was sitting there with my dad. I go, this guy was horrible at Michigan State. We were watching the game. He goes, yeah, it's just the MAC, though. That's why he's doing so. Still, I got to give him credit. I mean, the whole team's played well. And they've won close games. So looking from this side, Buffalo's just been horrible. The last 2 games they've lost. They are at home. They've been a little better at home. Northern Illinois has won a ton of close ball games. They've won 2 games by 1, a couple games by 2, and that Kent State loss was by 5, and that was a shootout, 52-47 at Kent State. The lean's Northern Illinois. If you like them, don't worry with the 1.5. Just take a money line, here in this spot. But now this is a Northern Illinois team that would always be catching points in this spot. Even though they're laying just favorites at 1.5, I'd be just a tad bit leery. I think they're the better football team. I'd only be on that side, but this could be a tough one. To get this done would be big for them.
Yeah, no doubt. And they finished the season with Western Michigan at home, and they'd have another chance, and which would be
a flat spot, maybe, huh?
Yeah, potentially. I agree. I think that is a concern here for me, but I don't know. You shouldn't be flat when you have a chance to win the MAC West division right now and punch your ticket right now. Why wait till next week against Western Michigan? Just because you're at home and playing Western Michigan, don't fritter away chances to win a division and get to a MAC championship game. Get it done tomorrow night if you're Northern Illinois. And from what I'm seeing, Kyle Van Treese is banged up and may not start. It might be Matt Myers at quarterback, and he's another guy that's been there forever at Buffalo. And if he's so good, why hasn't he beaten out this Van Treese kid who's not all that good?
He's not good. Yeah, no, he's not.
Myers isn't that good. They got quarterback issues, Buffalo. The bottom line, and definitely a big step back. Remember, this team was in the MAC championship game last year, and they've been one of the best teams in this conference the last few years, and just nowhere close to that this year so far. All right, let's go to Thursday college football. We got Louisville and Duke. Louisville, 19.5-point road favorites, 59.5 the total in this game. That's a lot of points to be laying here on the road with Louisville. I know Duke has just had a dismal season, and they've been non-competitive now 4 straight weeks. 48-0 to Virginia, 45-7 to Wake, 54-29 to Pitt, 48-17 over the weekend against Virginia Tech. 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread in those games, and they haven't been within 24 points of any of these teams. The losses by 48, by 40, by 48, by 38, by 25, and by 31. So they're just getting absolutely whipped. There's no way I'm on Duke here. No way. I think David Cutcliffe is going to be out after the year. I think they're going to just say we're parting ways. He's going to retire. I think he's mailing it in at this point. He's done all he can with this program. The only reason they've done anything the last 10, 15 years is because of David Cutcliffe. Remember, they've gotten to bowl games. They've had winning seasons. There was even one year they were threatening for a while to be in the ACC championship game, all because of Cutcliffe. It's been a great run, but, he's at the tail end of his career. He's getting older now. Team's not very good. They're losing the recruiting battle big time the last couple of years, and you can see the writings on the wall. Now I think with Cutcliffe probably retiring at the end of the year, it's like, where's the incentive to keep trying to coach these guys up when they're not very good and they're just not giving you the performance on the field you want? So it's just one of those toxic situations for Duke where I probably won't be betting on them the rest of the season, kind of like with FIU. With the shit show that's going on with them. I want no part of a team that's in complete turmoil right now. Duke is in turmoil. FIU is in turmoil. I think they're very similar. I want no part of Duke. The question is, can we lay it with Louisville? I don't know. That's a lot of points to be laying with a Louisville team that's sometimes so schizophrenic and up and down. And they did beat up Syracuse last week, 41-3. But prior to that, they didn't have a single win against an FBS team by this kind of margin. So it's still a little bit of a leap of faith to ask Louisville to win by 3 touchdowns on the road. But if I had to bet the game, I would only look to the road favorite here. Conor, Louisville Duke.
Yeah, that's the problem. They haven't beaten anybody by this. But that win last week was huge. I mean, they obviously had Syracuse number. They kicked the shit out of them, 41-3. If that defense is going to play like that, this Duke offense is not very good. I know they scored 29 versus Pitt, junk time. They got 17 last week, but the defense is just horrendous. Louisville should win this game 49-14. So, I mean, I'd lean with them. It's just they got to go on the road and do it, but I'd only lay the points here for Louisville.
Yeah, it's just hard to make a case for Duke right now. Simple as that. New England and Atlanta, Thursday night NFL football. We got New England 6-point road favorites, 46 the total in this one. Well, this is recency bias if I've ever seen it, because this line opened -4 on New England. It's already up to -6. Everybody sees New England look so impressive, just dominating, drilling Cleveland in utmost impressive fashion. The defense just completely bottled up and shut down Baker Mayfield. And the run game, although the run game was in shambles with no Hunt and no Chubb yesterday. But Dearness Johnson didn't really do a whole lot. But you don't take anything away from New England. That defense was terrific in that game. And now they go on the road, short week, play Atlanta. I understand that people, this kind of looks like Baltimore, Miami a little bit last week, where nobody wanted to make a case for Miami, and Miami won outright. I'm not saying Atlanta wins outright, but Atlanta's had a weird little, history this year where, they look really bad in one game. And look, they looked bad yesterday against Dallas.
Oh, come on. I had them.
Yeah.
Well, I had them. Just keep going. I just can't. I had to butt in there. It was horrible.
No, it was. I mean, that was a debacle all the way around. Their defense got their ass kicked. Their offense got their ass kicked. Special teams were a disaster. They gave up a blocked punt for a touchdown in that game to Dallas. It was a complete 3-phase unmitigated disaster for the Atlanta Falcons yesterday in that game. And like I've said many times about Matt Ryan in the last couple of years, once in a while he has these games, he turns back the clock, he plays very well like he did against Miami when they won, and like he did against the Saints, and a couple of games this year where he looks like, oh, Matt Ryan, a little bit of the glimpse of the Matt Ryan in his prime. And then there's a lot of games like yesterday where he looks like a decrepit old man out there. And that's exactly what we saw yesterday. He was, stiff as a board in the pocket, hanging onto the football too much, missing wide open receivers, underthrowing receivers, overthrowing receivers, taking too many sacks, fumbled the football once. I mean, just an absolute disaster for Matt Ryan yesterday. And you're going to get that, and unfortunately, I know he needs Ridley back. Someone in the chat, it is a good point. They miss him, but can't excuse it just because one receiver's out. He's got to make plays, and he's got to do better than that.
Dallas had a horrible pass defense, real quick, and they were like 25th or 6th. That's why I thought they could score points with them, but that did not happen.
Yeah, I feel your pain, because I had Dallas in the game for a smaller bet, but my bigger bet on that game was the over, and I thought Atlanta could contribute to it. So I got one team scoring 43 points for me, and I can't cash the over. That's very, very frustrating to see that. But It's just difficult for me to go in front of this New England team. They're a bet-on team all the way for me. 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, and some wins against some good teams too. The Chargers, Carolina's at least a solid team, and then of course Cleveland. It goes without saying how impressive they were. And we need to start talking about Mac Jones a bit and stop just saying that he's going to just control the offense, manage it, let the run game do its thing. Not anymore. He's got confidence, and he's dropping dimes, and he's throwing pinpoint accurate passes now down the field. That throw that he threw at the late first half, it was through a tight window, two defenders right around the receiver, and it was right in the hands of his receiver. It was a perfect throw. Mac Jones is getting more confident. He's getting more accurate with the football, and we can't sleep on this guy anymore. It's not just New England's now looking to run the football, control the clock, slow the game down, play defense. No, they now have a quarterback that they feel confident in, and Mac Jones is certainly playing with that confidence right now, finding different receivers. And I'll be honest, Hunter Henry has stayed healthy, and he's looking like that impact, strong tight end he looked like at times with the Chargers. Now that he's stayed healthy, Kendrick Bourne has suddenly been massive the last few weeks, getting him from San Francisco. Jacoby Myers has been good. And again, another example in that Cleveland-New England game where, you panic. Oh, the running backs are out. Oh, no James White. Oh, no Damian Harris in that game. No problem.
Next up,
Ramondre Stevenson comes in, 100 rushing yards on 20 attempts, and runs the football very well. So again, just don't overreact to those running back injuries. I'm probably not betting this one because it feels like the value ship has sailed on New England, but it's going to be tough for me to make a case for the Falcons. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, it's going to be zero chance for me to make anything with the Falcons. And plus, my thing on Thursday Night Football, I'm not very big on these. These guys only have a few days off. They got to get right back to it. Normally, when a game they don't practice till Wednesday, they got to get right back to it. New England's defense has been dominant. Other than that, and their 4 games on the road, they've all kicked ass, except the Texans. That was one where they laid off. They had to win late. But the Chargers, they went in there and won. The Panthers took care of business. The Jets. I think they do it again. I think Belichick, he's still dinking and dunking, but he's letting the leash a little go with Mac Jones. Like, let this guy sling it around a little bit. I think he's got it for him. And they've played great. And that defense is getting better and better. I thought it was pretty good to open the year, maybe, middle of the pack, maybe around 10th. But they've looked really, really good throughout the year, especially lately the last few games. As long as you're under a touchdown, it's just a lean. It's Pats or nothing for me here in this one.
Yeah, don't look now, but the division is very much alive and well for New England with Buffalo, and they got to play the Bills head-to-head 2 more times, and that division is now up for grabs between the Bills and the Patriots. And again, New England's going to get 2 games with Buffalo coming up here in the last couple months of the season, and that's probably going to decide who wins that division. All right, back we go to college football. Friday night action, Southern Miss, Louisiana Tech. La Tech, 16.5-point home favorites, 51 the total in this one. Should be interesting to see how this game goes, but when you're looking at it from a Louisiana Tech standpoint, it was a bounce-back effort from them yesterday in that one against Charlotte on Saturday, I should say. A much better game from Louisiana Tech. They've kind of had a tough, difficult season overall, but 42-32 win in that one. And really, it's shocking that Austin Kendall really played well early in the season for Louisiana Tech at quarterback. But they've gone back to Aaron Allen, I should say, because Kendall kind of struggled. And Aaron Allen had a very good game against Charlotte. And they led the team to 42 points in that one. The game sails over the total, which was good because I like the over in that game as well. On the flip side, Southern Miss, we got to say it, they put a scare into everyone in our home base here at Pub Sports Radio in San Antonio for a while. On Saturday. In fact, they were leading at times. They actually got a pick 6 of Harris in that game, Southern Miss. And look, they battled their tails off in that game. Either that or UTSA was sleepwalking. I think it was a little bit of both in that game. But nevertheless, 27-17. Yeah. It took a while for Texas San Antonio to finally put that team away. It was just not a really crisp, clean game by any stretch of the imagination. They still didn't do much throwing the football. A lot of the damage was, keep an eye on this guy, the son of Frank Gore Frank Gore Jr., really, really good running the football for Southern Miss against UTSA. That was very impressive. They're still not getting much from the quarterback position. It's just unbelievable what Southern Miss and Will Hall have had to go through in terms of quarterback injuries. You look at the depth chart, Trey Lowe, Ty Keys. It's just been a mess, and they've almost gone now to this, this hybrid wildcat style of offense. They're just not even using a prototypical quarterback right now. And Jose's mentioning it in our chat right now. They've got like a wildcat running backs operating the offense type of deal. They've given up. They say, we're not going to have a guy, a prototypical quarterback, just stand back there and throw it. That's basically what they're doing right now in this one. It's basically Frank Gore Jr. Running it, throwing it a couple of times, although mostly running it. Is a funky offense. The question is it funky enough for it to cause Louisiana Tech's defense trouble? It just might, because they've given up 52 and 32 in the past 2 games. And the La Tech run defense has been really lit up the last few weeks. 186 rushing yards per game, 5.4 yards per rush allowed the last 3 games. And that's essentially the entire Southern Miss offense is running the ball right now. And Louisiana Tech's struggling against the run. So I'm kind of making a case for the over here, 51, because I think Louisiana Tech will move the ball against Southern Miss. And if Southern Miss can run it, and the numbers dictate against a bad Louisiana or struggling Louisiana Tech run defense that they can, I think maybe we can see this game go over the total. That would be the way I would lean. What do you think here, Conor? Southern Miss, Louisiana Tech.
This is an ugly one for me. This is never a spot I want to take Louisiana Tech, laying these points, and they haven't played well. I know they just got that 10-point win, but Charlotte's not very good. They're bad against the run, like you mentioned. I think Southern Miss, even though they can't really throw it, I think they could run with them. This is the game I'm probably staying way away from betting, but I only look to Southern Miss. I think it's too many points here. One thing though, they run so much. I know that North Texas game did get over. Maybe this is just low enough to get over, but man, they've just been an under machine all year. Southern Miss games, they've been tough to get over the number.
How do you feel if you're Jake Lang, who is the 3rd string quarterback on Southern Miss? The guy doesn't even play against UTSA, and they're running this wildcat style run offense, and they're not like, it's just, and they're not even putting him on the field. He's been so bad, apparently, in the eyes of the coach. He's got 6 interceptions this year for Southern Miss, and he's not even getting, and they're going to this wildcat offense now. So you got to be pretty embarrassed if you're Jake Lang. You're playing so bad that they can't even put a prototypical standard quarterback under center for you right now for this Southern Miss team. So it's pretty comical to see what's going on there. But again, Louisiana Tech's not stopping the run. So believe it or not, Southern Miss might be able to put some points on the board here. Memphis and Houston. We got Houston 9.5-point home favorites, 62 the total in this game. East Carolina knocking off Memphis in overtime. That made Conor and I happy. I know we both had consensus there with East Carolina against Memphis in that game, and East Carolina gets it done in overtime, 30-29. Memphis looking to bounce back from that. But again, we're back to that same old story here. Now you got Memphis catching points, and if you're going to back Memphis, that's what you prefer. Memphis in the underdog role. Are they ready, though, for Houston? This is a big step up in class. You look at Memphis, they did beat SMU, but that was at home. On the road against good competition. Are they ready? The only road games, Arkansas State, and they barely won it, and they're a bad team. Temple, they lost, and that's a really bad team. Tulsa, they lost on the road. And UCF, they got bombed by 17. As much as in theory, you want to take points with Memphis as an underdog, that's where they've been better. I don't know if they're going to hang in there with Houston, because they have not done anything on the road of quality. Where's the quality win of merit on the road for Memphis this year? I don't see it, at all. I mean, they barely beat Arkansas State. The loss to Temple, the loss to Tulsa, the loss 24-7 to UCF when it wasn't even Dylan Gabriel at quarterback in that game for UCF. I got worries they can hang for 4 quarters here with this Houston team. So I don't think I'm betting the side. I'm not going to lay it with Houston either, but I do worry about Memphis's ability to hang tough for 4 quarters. Could you get over the total? Maybe, because with this Houston team, their offense is looking like a Dana Holgerson offense again. 45, 40, 31, 44, 54, 37 in their last 6 games. Memphis is not very good defensively. They'll give it up. The question is, can you get enough points from Memphis on offense with Hennigan for the over. I think you can. I would lean that way over the total. Connor, what do you like here? Memphis, Houston.
I think this is just too many points. I haven't bet this one. I'm going to wait. I want over 10, really, to be on Memphis's side here. They played similar teams, and they've been both close numbers, where they're both either side. They lose a couple, whether it's East Carolina, SMU. Both teams were close. Houston, since opening up with Texas Tech, where they lost, all they do is win. They won and covered last week. Memphis has been better at home. And just like we talked about, every time Memphis has to lay points, I always look the other way. And as soon as they are getting points, I kind of gravitate that way. I've been impressed with Houston, but this is a difficult one. For me, it's dog or pass, I think, in this ball game. I think Memphis can keep it close, even though I've been high on Houston all year.
All right, next up, Pac-12 action. Arizona and Washington State also on Friday night in the Palouse in Pullman. We've got Washington 14-point home favorites, 52 the total in this one. I was fascinated to see how Washington State would play because this is a team that was on a incredible point spread run in the midst of a whole entire coaching staff getting axed during this run because of the COVID policies. But they still kept on winning games. They beat Cal, Oregon State, Stanford. They nearly beat BYU. They just crushed Arizona State on the road in the most shocking win of them all, although injuries certainly or turnovers, I should say, certainly played a part in it for Arizona State. But then they had the bye week to disrupt the momentum a little bit. I guess you could say it could, but they still made a great account of themselves against Oregon. They only lost by 14, and they only lost the yardage battle by 0.3 yards per play. So it was a competitive, solid effort from Washington State.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, that game I thought should have been a lot closer. I had to push 14, but a lot of people had 13-1 with Oregon. But keep going.
No, I agree because that was a 7-point game, in the fourth quarter, halfway through, and then it kind of got away from Washington State at that time in the game. But their defense struggled quite a bit down the stretch against really the run game. I mean, it was Anthony Brown running the ball. It was Byron Caldwell, Travis Dye as well, making big plays, running the ball for Oregon. Jaden DeLora was pretty solid, but he made a couple critical mistakes, 2 interceptions. Moved the ball, but made some really critical mistakes throwing it as well. And now after the big game against Oregon, now they're in a totally different price range here. They're laying 14 and a half here. And don't look now, but the Arizona Wildcats are putting money in the pockets of their backers. Four straight point spread covers here for Arizona, losing by 5 to Washington, 7 at USC, beating Cal outright as dogs, and then hanging tough against a very strong, surging Utah team over the weekend, 38-29. They lost by 9 as 24-point dogs. And look, one of those games we were worried about their road play a little bit, but they did cover at USC on the road. I just don't know if Washington State's ready to be a double-digit favorite. You're seeing effort from Jed Fish's Arizona team down the stretch. Will Plummer's been serviceable at least at the quarterback spot for Arizona the last couple of games. The defense has played a little bit better as well. I could only look at Arizona here as a double-digit dog. It's also a potential down spot for the Cougars after the big game against Oregon last week. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, these are the flips you see in college football during the year. A team in Arizona, early on, you didn't want to touch for 5 weeks or so. Now they're making money for you. And Washington State might be a team a little bit on the other side. I still think they're the better team, but no way I can lay 14 with them. Usually I like Arizona at home, and they were better. We were all backed off taking Utah. We all liked Utah, but we thought it was too many points, and it was. Arizona hung tough. I think they can hang here a little bit. They've been playing a lot better. They've been scoring, which was their trouble. They just couldn't score any points at times. The offense was just horrible, and the defense can get gashed. As much as I like Washington State, different role here. Now 2 touchdown favorites. It's a lean for me with the 2 touchdowns Arizona. I know they've been a lot better at home on the road. Their last road game, though, at SC, 41-34, was a little, a glimmer there. So I'd only be on the points here with Arizona.
All right, we got Mountain West action now. Air Force in Nevada. This is our DJ Big Boss special here. Nevada 2-point home favorites, 52.5 the total in this one. Fascinating situational spot here for Nevada when you look at it for them, because that loss to San Diego State, it pretty much eliminates them from winning the West Division. It puts San Diego State on the fast track to winning the West Division because they're 5-1 now in conference play. Nevada's just 4-2. That was a tough loss for Nevada last week, 23-21 against the Aztecs. Now you got to come back home. And look, this was a team that wanted to win the Mountain West this year. They thought they were good enough to, and now it's going to be difficult for them to be able to do that. And now you come back home, you got to prepare for a triple option of Air Force that just beat Colorado State 35-21 on Saturday. And before that, they lost by 6 to San Diego State and in overtime against Army. Look, Zeke Daniels has actually been solid throwing the ball. He's struck on a couple of big plays, even though we know they run the football 90% of the time. This is a team when you load up against that run attack, they can throw it every now and then, Air Force as well. I just don't know if I trust Nevada after a real tough loss that essentially eliminates them from winning the Mountain West Conference. I think from a spot perspective, I'd be worried about laying the points here with Nevada. Now, can their offense light up Air Force's defense? Absolutely. Anytime Air Force has faced a great passing game and a great quarterback, they've struggled. I still remember when they gave up 49 points to Utah State. That's the game that stands out. So that's the concern here. I'd lean over because of that, because I think the passing game for Carson Strong can make some plays, but I wouldn't want to lay the points with Nevada in this spot. I worry about the psyche after a Mountain West a loss that killed their chances pretty much of winning the Mountain West last week. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Air Force game, I automatically think under. And before last game versus Colorado State, they had 4 straight unders. Either the game's going to kind of, I think, be close and stay under, or, they could pick that Air Force defense apart. You mentioned Utah State. Even last game, Colorado State got it done with them. That was a tough game for, they got to cover the 3 points that he had in the end. I thought they could beat San Diego State, but they, just couldn't get it done. I like Reno. I think they can throw it around. Air Force will be able to run it. I think this is a good one. Tough game. I just lean UNR. It's a game I haven't delved really deep in. I'd rather have Carson Strong in the end. I'd rather have the better quarterback.
All right, San Diego State, UNLV. San Diego State 11.5 point road favorites, 41.5 the total. And I guess on a similar
Rebels,
a similar conversation point where we talk about Nevada being a little bit, their psyche after the big loss. Is San Diego State going to have that same focus after the big win against Nevada last week, 23-21? I mean, they're in the driver's seat to win that West Division. You can't slip up, though. And UNLV is starting to play better football. I mean, we've talked about the fact that they're 5-2 against the spread their last 7 games. Have they suffered some ugly losses? Yes. I mean, obviously, the Nevada loss was hideous, and that stands out like a sore thumb. But every other game, they've been right there. And now the last 2 weeks, they beat New Mexico, they beat Hawaii. Obviously, it's going to be tougher against San Diego State. And the thing I worry about here for the Rebs a little bit going into this game is how are they going to run the football? And if they can't run the football, is their passing game good enough? Because you can do damage against the secondary. The secondary for the Aztecs is still a little bit shaky. But for UNLV, they're so predominantly run heavy that, is Cameron Friel, if he is indeed going to be the starting quarterback again, going to be able to do something running, throwing the ball if Charles Williams is shut down? That's going to end up being the big question, because that's a great run defense for San Diego State, and it's usually the teams that have the effective passing attack that do damage against San Diego State. I don't know if UNLV has that kind of offense in them, but nevertheless, I don't know if I'll get there, because I don't know if stylistically and matchup-wise this is a good one for UNLV, but I would still lean slightly to the home dog, because really, other than the Nevada game, they've been right in every game in Mountain West play. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, they've been in every game, here in Mouse. It's just crazy to say. And finally getting some wins. I think that win might have saved his job. I mean, if he can, Royal, if he can maybe get one of these 2 in the last, this or Air Force, he'll be there to stay. Williams ran wild, man. I don't know what he had, 200-something yards. I mean, almost 300 yards. He ran wild against Hawaii. Friel's going to have to make some plays because San Diego State's run defense is too good here. This is difficult. San Diego State's not the blowout team that I think of. I lean UNLV catching the points here. I can't believe I'm saying it. But they just keep playing pretty good and being in games other than UNR. And I was on that game. I waited. The Rebels played a little bit better. I get on that one. They shit the bread. So I mean UNLV here. This is a tough one, I think, for San Diego State. But we'll see. When there's been these games, sometimes San Diego State has blown them out. in the past, the last few years. And real quick with Arthur Mead, I wrote down those games for you. When we get to the question and answer in the basketball show, I'll get to them for you. Okay?
Yeah, because this is a football show. We'll save the college basketball stuff for later today. Net Profit, Connor Mack, and
I
Maxwell
jotted it
Smart.
down.
Yeah, make sure you tune in for that. It is a good college basketball card. There's actually a lot I like on that card today. So looking for, hopefully it translates that way in the results when it's all said and done. All right, good stuff. So that's the weeknight action that we've gotten through here on the show. Let's turn our attention to Saturday college football. We got Virginia taking on Pittsburgh. Pitt, 13-point road home favorites here, 66.5 the total in this one. There's already money that's come in on Pittsburgh. I think a lot of people are not assuming, but pretty confident, I would say, that there's probably not going to be a return at quarterback for Brennan Armstrong this week. They're going to see during the week at practice, but, he was unable to do much in practice last week. He is going to try to practice this week, and that obviously would make a big difference for Virginia. But I think there's some people that sense that even if he does play, we've seen even when he does play, Virginia's had some ugly results this season at times, and that was ugly for them against Notre Dame. Now, it was obviously made a lot worse with the absence of Armstrong, but still, you lose 28-3. This defense is bad. I mean, if you're Bronco Mendenhall, I know this is bothering him because he really prides himself on teams going back to his BYU days that play good defense, good fundamentally sound defense, and this team's doing anything but that. They're getting ripped apart pretty much every single week on the defensive side of the football. And the alarming part of it for Virginia is that the passing game has just been, or the secondary has been dreadful as well. They can't stop the run. I mean, there's nothing that Pitt's offense shouldn't be able to do here in this game against this Virginia team. I think the way I've already laid the points with Pitt. I kind of like their team total as well. If Armstrong is upgraded to playing in this game and he does suit up, maybe you could go ahead with the 66.5 to the over as well, because that might be a higher scoring game too. Now check the weather. You're talking about a Pitt game in November, but definitely I think Virginia's defense is going to be up against it here, and it's just a question of whether Brennan Armstrong starts for them. Connor, what do you think here? UVA Pitt.
Yeah, I think Armstrong plays. You maybe look the over. I don't know how healthy he's going to be though, and you're right. I think if he plays too, I like the team total even better. I mean, the Virginia defense is still horrible. So they could give up easily 50 here. I like Pitt here. I like him to lay it, but every time there's something weird, Virginia's that bad though, I think. So they have these fluky games, Pitt. They've already had it this year, but I think they're that good. Even, against North Carolina, they had the big lead and kind of the second half fell asleep a little bit. He hung on. They got the cover, won by 7, but I lean Pitt here. I lay it with them.
Don't one of these games Pitt just avoids the letdown? Or are we going to get Narduzzi'd again by this team, where they have a big win like they did against North Carolina? They pulled it out in overtime in the pouring rain in Pitt last Thursday night, and now they have the old flat spot in their life and death to win this game. Or maybe they lose it like they did, the Miami game after they beat Clemson. I'm sick of this shit with Narduzzi. Like, get your team focused, man. Stop having this team have these freaking hangovers and letdowns, after a big-time game. That still worries me here a little bit. But to me, Virginia's just absolutely, I don't know what it is, but the last few weeks has just been brutal for them. I mean, 66-49 loss to BYU, like non-competitive the last couple of weeks, and it probably doesn't bode for a great deal of confidence going into this game against Pitt. But we know what Pitt can sometimes do after a big win, and that's lay an egg. So we'll see if they can avoid that. They better avoid it, because, look, they can still play for an ACC championship. They can be in the ACC championship game. They're in control of the Coastal Division right now, first in that division, 5-1 in the conference. They control their own destiny. Now they got to go out there and play like it, Pitt. And if they do, then they'll be in the ACC championship game, probably against Wake Forest or Clemson, which is a huge game, and we'll get to that in just a few on this Hitting the Books show. Next up, SMU Cincinnati. We've got Cincinnati 12-point home favorite, 65 the total in this one. Yeah, I think we can throw out the window, Connor Mack, this notion that Cincinnati needs to get style points. Cincinnati needs to run up the score. There's no way I can bet against Cincinnati right now. Well, they're struggling right now to do that. I mean, this is now 4 straight non-covers, barely beating Navy, life and death to beat Tulsa a couple weeks ago. and really struggling to ever get a big margin against South Florida last Friday night. This is not a team I'm looking to lay points with, and SMU is dangerous. SMU has a very good passing game. Tanner Mordecai is a terrific quarterback. They hung 55 points in a beatdown of Central Florida last week, 55-28, after 2 straight losses to Houston and Memphis, a strong bounce-back game from the Mustangs. And when you look at Cincinnati, you could make a decent case. And this is a good secondary. That's the one thing that does concern you. One of their strengths on defense is the secondary. So in theory, it's a good matchup against SMU. But when's the last time they faced a terrific passing game? It's been a while. I mean, what's their best passing game they faced this year? Notre Dame? That could be it. That honestly could be it in terms of passing games that they faced that are very, very dangerous. Now, because remember, when they faced Central Florida, it was Mikey Keene already at quarterback. It was already after Dylan Gabriel got injured. This is a tough game for Cincinnati, and this is a good SMU team, and they're being priced like they're going to beat this team by 2 touchdowns. I'm not so sure about that. This is a team that's barely beaten Tulsa, barely beaten Navy. Yeah, this might be a bet, and I haven't even considered fading the Bearcats since that Temple game and when I paid the price for it. But boy, I would only look SMU right now early in the week. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, there's a college basketball show. Chris will be on later, same time. I like SMU as well. One thing we mentioned with Central Florida, their defense played really well, and then they got drubbed. And if SMU got a lead, they couldn't come from behind, and they didn't. They got that lead and just kept it and rolled from there. And SMU has been in every football game. Even the ones they lost have been close. They've won all their ones they're supposed to. Close losses with Houston and Memphis. I always talk about this is another team. Every time I see SMU, even I was shy last week, laying points. I don't want to do it because they, always come up short. I know they got it done last week, but look at their record the last few years. Now they're catching 12 here. I think it's too many. And I thought Cincy, I was, 5 straight ATS, to start the year, and then 4 straight non-covers. So I think they will be up for this one, Cincinnati. I mean, they got a couple games left. They got to get done, but I wouldn't lay it with them. I'd only take the points here. That's me.
Syracuse NC State 11.5 point home favorites, 50.5 the total in this one. One of those situations for Syracuse. Well, first of all, Louisville just seems to be able to have Syracuse's number now. That's 3 years in a row. Syracuse had a tough time with Louisville. And second of all, they had the bye week, after the 2 straight wins and the 7 consecutive point spread covers for Syracuse. Then they had the bye week. I think the bye week kind of disrupted their momentum. I definitely think that played a part as well in that 41-3 loss against Louisville. And the offense, which, look, had been pretty good, they got shut down. Tucker, not a great day for him running the football, and Garrett Schrader was very, very poor in the passing game as well. Now, the question is, can they bounce back here against NC State? This is a tough one because, look, if Syracuse is shut down by Louisville's defense, they're capable of being shut down by NC State's defense. And look, NC State's defense gave up 45, lost to Wake last week, but that Wake offense is it's a tough one to stop. They can run it, they can throw it. Hartman's playing well. This is probably more of a manageable matchup here for NC State's defense in this game. The money's come in, though, on Syracuse, and you're still asking an NC State team to lay double digits when you look at it this year. They've laid doubles only one time, I believe, in FBS play, against an FBS foe, and that was Louisiana Tech, and they won that game only by 7. So it does feel like it's a lot of points to be laying here with NC State that's got a solid offense, a good defense, but not the kind of team that you trust week in and week out to win by a 2-touchdown margin. So a lukewarm lean, I guess you could say, here to Syracuse if I were to say right now. Conor, Mac, what do you think?
This game's the ultimate pass for me. When it comes down to it, Syracuse finally lays an egg. They've been playing great. They've been covering. I mean, to me, I'd lean to Syracuse, even after getting their ass whipped. North Carolina has always been better at home. And they came out, North Carolina State, and they came out great last week. And then kind of Wake Forest just turned on the offense back and forth. They lose a Wake Forest shootout, 45-42. I think they'll be able to move the ball in Syracuse. I love them at home. It's just they got to win by about 2 touchdowns here, 11 and a half, 12 points. And I can't get there. So this is a pass, dog or pass, as they say here in this one.
All right, what a great game coming up next in the Big Ten. Michigan State, Ohio State. Ohio State 19-point home favorite, 66.5 the total. This is the first of a back-to-back gauntlet of Michigan games for Ohio State. They play Michigan State here, Michigan next week. And they're laying 19. And I got to look at this and say, wait a second here. Ohio State was laying 19-20 last week at home against Purdue. Now, I know Purdue beat Michigan State. That was Michigan State's one loss, but Michigan State's still better than Purdue, and they're laying the same price here. So to me, the value's on Michigan State. Can they hang tough? Do they have the offense to hang tough? Peyton Thorne's looking better throwing the ball. I like that he's actually throwing the ball and having more success doing it lately. A lot of the early in the year was a run-heavy offense, and we know they've got a Heisman hopeful and Kenneth Walker, who's had an outstanding year. But I like that Peyton Thorne's improving in the passing game, and I am going to stand by my belief that Ohio State's defense is still vulnerable, especially in the secondary. They can give up plays there. So I think Michigan State can move the ball, but I also expect Ohio State to move the ball at will potentially because, look, Michigan State's defense, against the best offenses they've played, they gave up 31 to Western Kentucky. They gave up 33 to Michigan, even though they won that game. And then they gave up 40 to Purdue in the loss. And Ohio State, they got the red zone issues they had against Penn State and Nebraska. They didn't have any of those issues against Purdue. They were punching in touchdowns every drive, 59-31. Stroud was on point to having Wilson back at receiver after he missed the last game to go with Olave. What a duo they are at receiver. The run game with Henderson. It just feels like a lot of points. I think Michigan State can trade points long enough in this game to hang within 19, especially when this is the same damn spread Ohio State was laying against Purdue when Michigan State's better than Purdue in my mind. So I lean to the dog. But the bet I really like, if there's no weather issues whatsoever, this game's got a chance to cruise over the total, sail over the total, 66.5. I think we're looking at 42, 31, something like that in this game. 42 at least for Ohio State. And even if you get just 28 for Michigan State, you get over that total. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair as long as there's no weather issues in Columbus on Saturday. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, Ohio State was just scoring with ease. I mean, I don't know what Purdue. That was no defense. That was the Ole defense. If you would have told me Purdue scored 31, I would have laughed. I would have said, yeah, they cover. But they couldn't. They just got their ass let up. Michigan State has had I think their expectations better than, what coming in. I lead them with the points, but that defense, both defenses, I think are leaky. But Ohio State's, I think, a little bit better, obviously, and they have the better offense. That Michigan State secondary in some of these games against, even Michigan, they got ran on. The Purdue game, they gave up 40 to them. I'm worried about that this could get away. Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I haven't decided on anything yet. There could be points. I start getting 66.5. That's a lot. So I have nothing on the total as well. This might be a full stay away for me. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, there's rumblings Michigan State's hoping to get their best receiver back, Jalen Naylor. He was injured a few weeks ago, and he was their best receiver. Now, Jaden Reed, Keon Coleman, Trey Mosley, they've stepped up. They've done a good job. But if they could ever get Naylor back for this game, that's enormous now. And tough to match up for a secondary. That's the weak part of Ohio State's defense. It's the secondary. They're actually not bad up front against the run. They're good against the run, but you can throw on them. And if they've got their best receiver back, Naylor, I think Michigan State, there's plays to be made down the field in the passing game if he plays in this one. And even if he doesn't, I think they'll make enough that they can score some points in this one. All right, next up, we've got Michigan and Maryland. Michigan, 14.5-point road favorites, 55 the total in this game. Maryland, definitely a season that it started out strong, and it's been pretty much downhill ever since then. It's a bad sign that, Michigan State loses their first game of the year, and Maryland just cannot catch Michigan State in a hangover spot because they just couldn't stop Peyton Thorne and the Spartans. They give up 40 points. They lose 40-21. Too many mistakes by Little Tua, Talia Tagovailoa against Michigan State. Critical interception just when Maryland was looking to get back into that game. And now Michigan laying 14.5, 15 in this one. But this could be one of those spots for Michigan, too, where after a huge win on the road against Penn State, 21-17, they survived. It wasn't pretty. They got it done. Is this a team that we trust to go on the road, win by margin? They have one example of doing that, and that was at Wisconsin, where they won 38-17. But it was a turnover fest for Wisconsin. So many mistakes, so many turnovers. Michigan feasted on them. The other two Big Ten road games, Connor, 3-point win by the skin of their teeth at Nebraska, and then the loss at Michigan State. So the track record of, do we want to lay more than 2 touchdowns with Michigan? I personally don't. So it's probably a game I'm going to pass. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, this is a game I'm going to pass on. But my lean, I'm crazy. I'd lay it with Michigan. I think I've said that all year. I think Maryland's been that bad. If Maryland, if he doesn't have, fumbles and picks and the turnovers, they could maybe stay within this. But I think Michigan just has to run it, just run their offense, and they score about 38. That defense is too good. I think that they'll force turnovers with a little Tua there. So it's Michigan or pass for me here. Can't believe I'm saying it. Double digit on the road, Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. And look, the passing game's improved. Cade deserves credit. McNamara here for Michigan, because they're having more confidence in him. They're throwing the ball a bit more, and he had a clean 3-touchdown game, no interceptions against Penn State last week. They're throwing the ball more because they're getting more confidence in Cade McNamara.
They're going to need it. Yep. If they want to beat Ohio State, he's got to make plays.
Well, he's getting better. He's going to have to keep getting better, because that's the only way they're going to hang with C.J. Stroud in that offense. Is he's going to have to make plays in that game. They're not going to be able to rely on Corum and Haskins running the football, because that the strength of Ohio State's defense is the run. So that'll be a great game next week, and of course next Monday on the show we will definitely break down the big rivalry game, Michigan Ohio State, right here on the show. Florida Missouri next up. We've got Florida 8-point road favorites, 69.5 the total in this one. So I guess Todd Grantham wasn't the problem with Florida's defense, because they fired him last week, and then they play Samford on Saturday, and they still give up a shit ton of points. They can't stop.
I couldn't believe that. I was like, what's the score? Like, it was like the second quarter. It was like, 42-35 in the second quarter. I'm like, what? That was crazy. Wow.
It was crazy, and it was bad from a Florida standpoint. How the hell do you lay more than a touchdown on the road with this defense right now? You can't. And Missouri now, hold on now. They had not covered a point spread this year, and that's back-to-back point spread covers against Georgia, and then they actually beat South Carolina straight up 31-28 last week. Believe it or not a bad performance from the Missouri defense. Better than it's been, but South Carolina offense was pretty compromised. They had Jason Brown at quarterback, very one-dimensional offense. The one thing for Florida is they still can move the ball, put up points. They showed it last week against Stanford. They've shown it at times this year, and the Missouri defense is still pretty leaky as well. Both of these defenses leaky. So the way I look at it is 69.5, you bet over or nothing, stay off the side. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I don't want to take the under, really. I'm still shocked by the 70-52. Samford, 52 on Florida. Oh, man. I think Missouri could score on them, too. I'd only look that way. I think there's problems in Florida. They played that big game against Alabama. Everything just seems nothing good since that game, since that close one that they had. The defense, I just don't trust them. I'd only look Missouri if I had to bet the side in this game, too. They play better a little bit, and they've got some spread. Florida 4 straight ATS losses. Missouri, after losing 9 straight, finally got a few ATS wins there.
And both of these teams just absolutely suck at stopping the run. And Tyler Beatty
they should,
from Missouri should be able to run the football. And then Emory Jones at quarterback, who's a dual threat and can run. And they've also got Damian Pierce, Naquan Wright, Malik Davis. The run games of both teams should do significant damage, because neither team can stop the run. And this definitely has shootout written all over it. It is a high total. You're not getting a bargain, but I could still see both teams getting to 35 points. And if that happens, you're a winner with the over in this game. All right, next up, we've got Texas, West Virginia, Big 12 action. West Virginia, 2.5-point home favorites, 57.5 the total in this one. Where is Texas going to go in this game? Do they rise up? Are they embarrassed, humiliated after the Kansas game on Saturday? Because that is humiliating. That was absolutely humiliating. That so much for Sark in the early season. hopes. People were getting excited a little bit with the way Texas started out, and now all of a sudden they lose at home in Austin to Kansas. Even Charlie Strong, he lost to Kansas too, but at least he didn't lose to Kansas at home. That loss was in Lawrence. This one was at home. This was in Austin that you're losing to the Kansas Jayhawks as 30-plus point home favorites. Just absolutely hideous loss for Texas. I don't know if they respond here. Maybe they do, but I don't trust them. And it's only laying less than a field goal with West Virginia. I know they've been a little bit up and down, West Virginia, but the one thing about the Mountaineers is they've played good football more often than not on their home field here in Morgantown, which is still a pretty tough place to win. So hard for me to make a case for anything but the home team, West Virginia, in this one. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, this West Virginia at home, laying less than a field goal, I got to take it. I don't know what, the honeymoon's over for Sarkisian there at Texas. They came out, won some games early. Now he's starting to feel the heat of that job, and losing to Kansas. Wow, that was pathetic. Hey, Kansas was playing better, but I mean, to beat them outright like that was crazy. K-State took care of West Virginia. A lot of us like that. Thought they'd probably get by, depending on how West Virginia's defense is played. Their defense is kind of spotty. They're more trustworthy, I think, at home, but they've been really good, and they kind of look bad in spots. I'd lay it here, the little 2.5 with West Virginia. I'm probably not going to play this one, but I'd lay the points with them.
All right, we move on now. Next game, it is Florida State, Boston College. Boston College 2-point home favorites, 54 the total. It was one of my strongest plays Saturday. Boston College, it was a sweat. It wasn't easy. They didn't start the game well. It was a rough first quarter, but they overcame it. Phil Jurkovec, once he got going in the second half, Georgia Tech was not stopping him. It was a great second half for the BC offense. He shook off the rust of the first game against Virginia Tech, and once that BC offense and Jurkovec got it going, they weren't stopped. And you look at Florida State. Look, give them credit. I'm obviously last week or Saturday, the big rivalry game against Miami, and obviously Florida State is able in that game to make our good friend Big Ragu happy with the 31-28 win. But let's not all of a sudden say, wow, they won that game. They're going to go on a run here down the stretch. Now, they do need 2 more wins to get bowl eligible. So there is bowl eligibility still at stake for Florida State. And they do finish the season at Florida against the Gators. So you have the rivalry with Miami Saturday, and you've got your next rivalry game on tap next week against the Florida Gators. And in between, you've got Boston College, who to me have looked like a better team the last 2 weeks with Phil Jurkovec back at quarterback. You got a Florida State team going to the Northeast. It could be cold, could be damp. Those Florida kids, they don't always react well and play well when they're playing in colder elements in late November. So I think Boston College less than a field goal. I'm willing to ride this team once again. I think they're starting to get their season back on track with their quarterback back on the field. What do you think, C-Mac?
This one's tough for me because I had BC as well, and I like Florida State, in that game. We talked about it on Saturday. So this one's was a little bit difficult for me. There's Smalling to Boston College, but I don't love it. But Jurkovec, when he's back, I like him a lot better. I mean, when he was gone, I didn't even think of betting. I was betting with them. I just cut it out. I was like, I'm not going to bet Boston College till he's back. He's back. He's a difference maker, but I like what Florida State's been doing. I think they've been slowly getting better. We talked about how awful they were in some of those bad losses early on. So I have a lean to BC here.
All right, lean to BC, and we got a huge game next up in the in the ACC, Wake Forest and Clemson. What a game this should be here between these two. Wake Forest bouncing back in very impressive fashion after the tough loss to North Carolina. First loss of the year. They bounced back, beat NC State. Clemson 3.5, 4-point home favorites here, 56 being the total in this game. Clemson, it's got to be said that they didn't cover against UConn. They won 44-7, but it took them, a while for their offense to really get on track. And when you look at the numbers in that game, yeah, they were better for DJ, but he still only threw for 241 yards and a less than 50% completion rate against UConn. And thankfully they were able to run the football pretty well down UConn's throat, but it's not like the passing game was terrific for DJ. I mean, how are you 21-44 against UConn? And so there's still issues with Clemson's offense. And their defense has been obviously much better than their offense. But I'll say this right now. Look at this schedule for Clemson this year. Georgia Tech, NC State, Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, Florida State, Louisville, UConn. Pitt maybe has an offense somewhat in the stratosphere as Wake. Nobody else does. And so for as good as Clemson's defense has been holding them in so many games this year, this defense is going to be put to the test by this explosive, fast-paced, very, very dynamic Wake Forest offense. And this could be a game where, this challenges Clemson a little bit here in this one with this offense. And if they fall behind in this game, their offense is finally going to have to move the ball and put up points quickly, because it could snowball with how fast and how quickly Wake Forest can score. At more than a field goal, getting the dog here with Wake, that's the only way I could bet it. I mean, I really think Wake Forest, this is going to be as good a chance as they're ever going to have to beat this Clemson team, and they control their own destiny on that side of the division. In the ACC, 6-1, leading the Atlantic Division in the ACC. They control their own destiny. They win out. They're in the ACC championship game, which would be a great accomplishment for Dave Clawson and this team. What do you think here, C-Mac?
You hit the nail on the head. This is Wake's best chance to beat Clemson. I think I got to take the 3.5. I think this might be the only year. We'll see. I think Clemson, he just gets too many recruits there. Should be better. I've been an under. With Clemson game, even the under hit versus UConn, they covered. By the way, that early touchdown didn't score anymore the rest of the way, but it got him to cover. So yeah, I lean Wake in this one. I think they'll be able to throw it. Clemson's defense, I don't know. I don't think this is going to be the 50 shootout though. I think Clemson will be able to hold Wake down, and I don't know if Clemson will make Wake Forest defense look a little bit better, because that's how bad they are offensively. So be leery of the total here. It's dropped already, 3 points, but if it keeps going low, it might go too low, and you can take the over. But I have nothing on that. But right now, give me the 3 in the hook with Wake.
I just don't think I can do it, Connor, with betting a Wake under right now. I just don't. I mean, 87 and 113 the last 2 weeks, and 77
different teams, though. I agree. Yeah. Their defense looked different, too, early on in the year. I was surprised how Wake's defense did against Virginia, some of those teams. Yeah, it's interesting. If it keeps going low, I think the over probably is the play. So it's an interesting total here. So
it's only 55.5. Like, this is extremely low for a Wake Forest game. There's no question about it. I mean, their totals have been 65, 78, 72 the last 3 weeks. And this offense has just got it going in high gear right now. So it does feel like, wow, a pretty low total for a Wake Forest game. I would only bet it over, that's for sure. Nebraska and Wisconsin. We've got Wisconsin 9.5-point home favorites, 43 the total in this game. Money's come in on Nebraska in this one. And look, they've been competitive in every recent game, even though they've lost 4 straight. 3-point loss to Michigan, 7 to Minnesota, 5 to Purdue, 9 to Ohio State. I would lean Nebraska here, believe it or not. And look, I know Wisconsin's been really starting to fire away on all cylinders, 4 straight wins and covers, all of those victories by a minimum of 17 points, Purdue, Iowa, Rutgers, Northwestern. It's a tough game because Wisconsin's really surging right now. That defense has been lights out the last 3 weeks, and I worry they force Adrian Martinez into some of the same mistakes he usually makes. But he's also made some plays lately too, Martinez. So I would still lean Nebraska, but lukewarm on this one. I do worry about, again, that defense for Wisconsin. They have been locking it down the last 3 weeks. They forced Martinez into a mistake or two. There could be issues. Should be a low-scoring game as well. Connor, Mack, what do you think?
Yeah, it's just every time it's this number, it was different with Northwestern, maybe Rutgers, but Nebraska here. I mean, it's Wisconsin for me. This is a game I haven't bet. I haven't gotten totally into last night, but I look under. I mean, they've covered 4 straight, Wisconsin. They seem like they're rolling. And I'm the ultimate fade Nebraska guy. Maybe I better stick to it. They have played close games. They were on a little bit of a run. But I think Wisconsin's defense we're starting to see they're just elite. They're giving up 7, 3, 7. Purdue had 13. So how much is Nebraska going to get? Can they get 2 touchdowns? Maybe a team total under for Nebraska in this game. It stayed under with Northwestern. They got that 1 touchdown. We were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this, and by the way, Wisconsin's defense has always been pretty good this year. It's just that now they're starting to get their offense going a little bit, and Mertz
Yeah,
is making at least fewer mistakes now.
minimal mistakes.
Yeah, a lesser amount of mistakes, I guess you could say, throwing the football, and that has made a difference for Wisconsin, no question. All right, we continue along. Oregon and Utah. What a great Pac-12 game this is. I'm looking forward to this one in Salt Lake. Utah, 2 3-point home favorites, 59 the total in this game. We've talked about how for Utah, they have basically been a completely different team since the first month of the year. They had those early struggles. They had the bye week, and since then they have been a different team. They have won 6 of their last 7 games, 6-1 straight up during that span. They're undefeated at home. And what I like for Utah here going into this game, Conor, is that run defense that struggled early in the year, it's back. It's playing well. They're stuffing the run, 110 rushing yards and 3.4 yards per carry being allowed by this Utah defense. And that's significant. This is a run first, run heavy spread offense here for Oregon. And if they can't run the football, and you make Anthony Brown, the quarterback, one-dimensional, having to throw it, that's when Oregon's offense sputters. That's when it doesn't work. I know they beat Ohio State, but this is going to be a different challenge now. A team that's playing great run defense at the moment in Utah, which is, I think, a big part of their resurgence at the moment. Cam Rising taking over from Charlie Brewer, who left the program, has been a blessing in disguise. He's given them a legit passing attack as well. I think Utah's got every opportunity here to beat Oregon. And I think the fact that they're a field goal home favorite, like Oregon's in the playoff right now. Oregon's getting hyped by everybody. They're in the top 4. They're in a playoff spot, and yet they're a dog in this game. That's going to tempt so many people to bet Oregon in this game. I'm not going to be that most falling for the trap here in this one. And I like Utah, and I've been backing Utah a lot lately too. So I'm on the Utes here. I think they end Oregon's playoff dreams here on Saturday night. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I'm with you here. I can't, it seems like this is just, wow, Oregon's a 3-point dog. Take them. This Utah team keeps getting better. I think there's points in this game as well. I think Oregon will score. That Utah defense isn't the same as in years past, but Utah's offense is different as in years past. They have an unreal offense with Cam Rising. I think they'll put over 30 here on Oregon. There's even a 2.5 out there at FanDuel. I'm going to lay the 3 as well. That's one of the toughest places to play. I love backing them here in Salt Lake is Utah. I think they get it done with the W. I think they can get the cover, and I'd lean over here. Shout out to our guy, iHeavy08 with the dono. Appreciate it, my man.
Thank you very much. iHeavy08. That's not the first time you've donated, especially a bigger amount. So we greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much for your support. It definitely does not go unnoticed, and we appreciate you for sure tuning in here to the Hitting the Book show right here on Pub Sports Radio. All right, we continue along now. We've got Georgia Tech, Notre Dame in this next game up. Notre Dame, 15.5-point home favorites, 59.5 the total in this one. It's been a great run for Notre Dame of late. There's no question. But is this the spot you want to lay 15.5 with them in? I mean, they've been on a great run. They've playing their best football of the year. Jack Cohn and the offense has been great. The defense has consistently gotten better as well. 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games. But are they ready to win by a big margin here against Georgia Tech? The one thing about Georgia Tech, since that lambasting they took at the hands of Pitt, their last 4 games, they've lost all 4. But an 8-point loss to Virginia, competitive defeat. 9-point loss to Virginia Tech, competitive defeat. 3-point loss to Miami, competitive defeat. 11-point loss to Boston College on Saturday, but that was a pretty close game most of the way. Competitive defeat. If Notre Dame is, it feels like now the betting markets are catching up to Notre Dame. The great run they've had. Georgia Tech leaned for me, at least in this game. Now, and look, I'll say this about Georgia Tech too. They changed quarterbacks last week. They did not go with Sims. They went with Yates, and Yates gave them a lot more in the passing game, Jordan Yates, than Justin Sims has. And maybe that's a change for the better because, look, they pretty much are a one-dimensional run offense with Sims at quarterback, but Yates gave them a little bit of a a little bit of a passing game at least, which is more than we could have said for Sims, and it helped them out offensively at least. Although that defense is still sketchy as fuck for this Georgia
Yeah,
Tech team. They
very
are
bad.
struggling on the defensive side of the ball, and that does concern me. Even catching this number of points. What do you think here, C-Mac?
I don't think this is a game I'm going to get involved with. Whoever it is, Yates or Sims, those guys turn the ball over. And then on top of it, like you just said, they have a shitty defense. So this is like two bad things you don't want. Turnovers and on the defensive side are horrible. They give up tons of big plays. But this is a big number for Notre Dame. It kind of feels like a flat spot, huge favorite at home. And Georgia Tech, like you talked about, been in those games. But they've only, out of 5 out of the last 6, though, they've been ATS losses. So they've hung in a few of them, but the only one was the Miami one that I was on, the 33-30. But other than that, but they've been in them. So interesting spot here in South Bend.
We'll get to that in the NFL whip around, Ryan. I'll talk about the Dolphins and the Bills next week. We'll do that right at the end.
Yeah.
We do the NFL whip around for sure. Next up, we've got UCLA, USC. The old Battle of LA here. UCLA 3-point road favorites, 65.5 the total in this one. I got at least right now side a little bit with UCLA. I think lately you're seeing a little bit better play out of them than you're seeing from USC. USC is just too erratic for me. They've lost 3 of their last 4. The only win was a very unimpressive game against Arizona, where they barely won the game as 22-point favorites. They won by 7. They lost to Utah, lost to Notre Dame, got blown out by Arizona State in their last game. The one advantage for USC is they get a bye week going into this game, but how much is this coach really preparing for UCLA? This guy's not going to be retained as the head coach. USC is going out and hiring someone else. They're not keeping this guy as the interim coach. So how excited is he to use the bye? He's not using the bye week to prepare for UCLA. If I had to guess, he's probably using the bye week to send his resumes out to other teams because he's going to have to find another job probably. That's probably what he's doing here right now. I just think UCLA is a little bit better team. They played at least a little bit better lately than USC has. But it is one of those games where you get surprising results, and sometimes the team that's kind of inferior can win a game like this, a rivalry game such as this. So, yeah, I'll lean UCLA, but I'm not even all that sure I'll end up pulling the trigger. What do you think, C-Mac?
Real quick, yeah, Kev Riley, show on Be On later, college basketball show, same time. This one is difficult. Both teams, have underperformed. It just seems like the same old UCLA. Chip Kelly's got, I think he should be gone. He's given too long a time. SC's got a boatload of problems. Yeah, they will hire a new coach. Just the same old. They have 4 or 5 losses, not very good. But it's a battle of LA. I have a lean. If you have 3 in the hook, there's some 3s, 3.5s out there. I lean Southern Cal here. I don't know. I'm just throwing a dart, really. I think they're at home off the bye week. This is what I'm probably not getting involved with. I think there's some points in this ball game. Whether it gets over 66, I don't know, 65.5. But I think we see points here.
Yeah, that might happen because 3 straight overs in the series history here. UCLA, USC, 34-27, 52-35, 43-38. The last 2 years have really been shootouts between these two teams, and all of those games were Chip Kelly games as well. So 65.5. It's almost like don't fade the series history, roll with it because we've seen 3 straight overs, and they've all gone over this total. 65.5 as well. So the first one didn't, but the last 2 did. We had 87 points 2 years ago with these teams, and 81 points last year between these two teams. So yeah, definitely I would side with you there with the total and go over the number if I were to bet it. Arkansas, Alabama next up. We've got Alabama 20.5-point home favorites, 57 the total in this game. Arkansas, definitely not a crisp, not a sharp game by any stretch, especially on offense, but win ugly is what they did against LSU on Saturday with an overtime win, 16-13. They did play great defense in that game, and we saw LSU, of all teams, really make things difficult a couple weeks ago for Alabama's offense, for as good as it's looked at times this year. Can Arkansas do the same here? In this game? That ends up being the question. The concern for me, though, is that by far the 2 best teams they've played in the SEC and on their schedule altogether this year, they've struggled the last 2. Ole Miss, they lost. Georgia, they got blown out. They did beat A&M, though, 20-10, although that was at home. What can they do here on the road against Tuscaloosa is the question. Maybe their defense hangs in there. I don't know what their offense is going to do, though, because I thought that was a prime spot for KJ Jefferson and that at quarterback and that Arkansas ground attack led by Traylon Smith and Dominique Johnson to really do some damage against a suspect LSU defense, and they couldn't against that team. So it does worry me that if they don't put up, if they struggle like that against LSU, what are they going to do here against Alabama? It's probably the one thing that's going to keep me off taking the points. I don't know if I'm going to lay them either with Alabama here, 20.5 in this game, but I might lean under in this game at 57.5, the current total. That's where I would lean in this one. I just, again, with Arkansas struggling to move the ball against LSU, you worry about that now taking on Alabama. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I think I'm going to jump back on Arkansas here after staying off them for 5 weeks. If you can get the 21, get it, because this is dropping. There's 20.5 already around. It won't be 21 anymore after today. I love the under in that Arkansas LSU game. I thought it was too many points. I thought both defenses are playing a little better. Yeah, can they move it against Alabama? Alabama's the better team, hands down. But I think and the biggest problem is Alabama's at home. This is where they're so dominant. This is why, it's not crazy about taking the points with Arkansas. But 3 touchdowns here. I think this team's that talented, at least to hang around with 3 touchdowns. So give me the points with Arkansas.
Iowa State, Oklahoma. Next up, Big 12 action here. Oklahoma 4-point home favorites, 60.5 the total in this one. Oklahoma, of course, coming off the stinging upset loss against Baylor. How do they respond in this one against Iowa State? That ends up being the question. We know these two have a great rivalry. They've played in back-to-back Big 12 championship games. Or actually, I think just the one, actually. But last year they played in the Big 12 championship games, but they've played a lot of tight, hotly contested games recently head-to-head since 2019. You've got Iowa State coming off a stunning loss to Texas Tech, 41-38. Don't know what happened to their defense yesterday, but it struggled against Donovan Smith. Lit them up, 322 passing yards. They struggled in that game. They gave up 207 rushing yards. I don't know what happened there for Iowa State's defense. I would lean to the over here because, to be honest with you, Iowa State's defense has given up 38 to West Virginia, 41 to Texas Tech in 2 of the last 3 games. We know that Oklahoma offense is probably better than they showed against Baylor. Baylor does have a good defense. Lean to the over. I'd lean to the dog. I just cannot lay points with Oklahoma after that bubble burst spot, losing to Baylor last week. But I think I like the total more than the side in this game. What do you think, Conor Mack?
Yeah, where's Iowa State's defense gone? In the last few weeks, it's just some of these teams giving these points. We all said this Texas Tech, be on alert. They could on Saturday. I just didn't know what Texas Tech team was going to show up where I could go full, put a huge bet on them. But I really like that spot there. There's just one thing I talk about it every week. There's just no way. I don't give a shit whether it's 4.5 or 34.5. I'm not laying points with Oklahoma. There's just no way. So I'm going to take the points with Iowa State. I think they play well here or just pass this game. Just let it go. Nothing on the total.
All right, we move on now with just 3 games left. UAB, UTSA, meet. We got the Roadrunners, 5-point home favorites, 53.5 the total in this one. This is going to be a good test for UTSA to see if they can keep this undefeated season alive. They obviously had to work for it against Southern Miss last week. Much harder than they thought. And UAB's no pushover. They've been one of the better teams in Conference USA for years. They beat Marshall outright as underdogs, 21-14. The defense got back to looking like the UAB defense of years past in that game against Marshall. We'll see how they fare here against UTSA, though. I like UTSA to win the game. I don't know if I want to lay 5 because I respect the hell out of the Blazers, and they have covered 4 straight on the road. The under's gone 4 straight on the road in UAB games as well. So this might be an under. I could see this with so much at stake. You look at the standings in Conference USA right now going into this big game. You've got UTSA 6-0, UAB 5-1. If UAB wins and they're both 6-1 in conference, UAB gets the tiebreaker because they had beaten UTSA. So this is an enormous game, one of the toughest opponents for UTSA all year. I still think, when push comes to shove, even last week, they showed not their best game, found a way that even, if they're back and forth and they struggle here with UAB, which I think they will. I think it's a tight game, close game, but I think they can find a way to pull it out. I just don't want to lay 5 here against this UAB team, and I lean to the under a little bit. Connor, Mac, what do you think?
This is an interesting game, interesting spot. Obviously, I think they were looking to this game. I mean, UTSA, last week, Southern Miss, they were sleepwalking through that first half for sure. And they probably got an ass chewing at halftime, came out, took care of business. It's 4.5. This is the big game. I mean, I liked UTSA for almost all year long. It's tough to go against them now. I was on UAB last week. We talked about Marshall. I can't bet them, and they laid down like they normally do. So I was glad I was on UAB. UAB's defense played better. Maybe it just took looking at Marshall to play better. That defense got shredded against Rice and Louisiana Tech. They just had to get the normalcy of kicking Marshall's ass to play better. So interesting game. I have nothing on it right now. But I like it. Now here he comes.
You know what it is. When
Look
you're
at that hairdo.
Something to you, Jose, that's going to make you feel good. UTSA is 8-0 against the spread this year when they're laying less than 3 touchdowns or
Very
3
good.
touchdowns or less. The only 2 they didn't cover was when they were massive favorites against Southern Miss last weekend, and then the other one was when they were 21.5 against UNLV, and they won by 7. Other than that, in these competitively lined games like this game against UAB, they've consistently won. They've consistently covered. So there's your to prop you up as a Roadrunner.
Thank you. By the way, gentlemen, I just want to let you know I have put a significant, I would say one of my largest bets in a long time on UTSA -5. I'll be at the game. I was at the Southern Miss game. I've told you guys before this, probably this is the most important game in UTSA history.
It is.
They've had it a couple times this season. This is a playoff game to get into the conference championship game. They win this game going away. The Alamo Dome's rocking. I guarantee the cover of -5.
Yeah, they could have been looking ahead to this game as well last week.
Absolutely,
it sure as hell looked like it with the way they played. But
they better watch the last game of the year though against North Texas team that's starting to play better. So big win if they get the big win that let down of going to North Texas, who all of a sudden was dog shit, who I took early in the year, has played a lot better. So interesting last couple of games to see if UTSA can get it done.
And North Texas is their rival. That's their only conference rival because Texas State stinks and Texas doesn't want that smoke. But I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. But UTSA big this week, guys. And by the way, you know the weight of my heart with these 2 back-to-back games here. You know how to get me here.
Exactly. Well, it's the one thing about UAB though is road warriors this year. I mean, the 2 losses were at home, but on the road they've been terrific. So that's a great game though. We'll have to wait. This is actually one of the better games on the card Saturday. It's an important game. It's going to decide who's in the championship on that side of the division. UAB and UTSA, and it is huge. If you're UTSA, you win, you're undefeated, you're going to the championship game. You lose your undefeated season. You're probably not going to the championship game, or at least a very good chance you're not going to the championship game. So huge game. It goes without saying. That's not hyperbole by our guy Jose. This is the biggest game that UTSA football has ever had.
It is,
no doubt.
But he said that every week, which is funny. What Chris Commentini says.
That's not true. That's not.
You
true.
say it every week.
Game. It's the 4th one of the season, Connor. We knew this coming in. We're a small program. Only 10 years of history. Give us a break.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Every game, I guess, is the. That's true. Yeah. That's coach talk. Coaches say that shit. This is the biggest game. Every game. Yeah.
Every game should be the biggest game. You're right. All right, we go to Big 12 action. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. Oklahoma State, 10.5-point road favorites, 56 the total in this game. Texas Tech, hell of an impressive win against Iowa State. Obviously, it goes without saying. Donovan Smith at quarterback was terrific in the victory against Iowa State. As 13-point dogs, they win 41-38. Very impressive win. Can they move the ball, though, against this Oklahoma State team? And I'll tell you right now, Oklahoma State, 7-1 straight up, 8-0 against the spread. 8 straight covers for Oklahoma State. I don't care that Texas Tech showed life. I'm not stepping in front of this Cowboys team right now. And their defense has been suffocating. They've given up 23 points in the last 3 games combined. And I know Tech with the backup quarterback shredded Iowa State. That was at home. And yeah, they're at home here. And they do it against a much better defense. I'm not sure. And is there a letdown after beating Iowa State? No, I'm not stepping in front of Oklahoma State. I'm just not doing it. What do you think, Connor?
Wow, this one's interesting to me. Oklahoma State just keeps kicking ass and covering. I can't go against it either. I think it's slippery though. They're laying this many points on the road. Texas Tech is going to be up, and I think Texas Tech's defense has been a better. That's what their whole problem was. I mean, they gave up 70 points to Texas. I don't know what team was showing up from week to week, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They got better on the bye with the quarterback situation. This guy played great last week. But you're right. Gundy's so good in the dog. Some of these games, they were dogs. They've been good as the favorite last week. It was them or pass against TCU. I'd have to say them again. As much as I want to take the double-digit dog at home, they just keep rolling. But they better be on upset alert, I think. This could be the one before Oklahoma. They need to have their head straight in this one because they play Oklahoma next.
Yeah, it is potential look ahead. Battle of Bedlam next weekend, Oklahoma State. So will the Oklahoma State Cowboys be caught peeking ahead? If not, I think it's going to be tough for Texas Tech to move the ball against that defense. Final game, Baylor and Kansas State. We've got Kansas State pick'em -1, 50 the total in this game. Baylor, now be careful of this. The letdown spot for them, could it be after beating Oklahoma 27-14? And now you got to go on the road and face Kansas State, who have suddenly won 4 straight, including a very nice home win against West Virginia, 34-17 last week. There is a little bit of a concern I have for Baylor. They like to run a lot. Kansas State's shutting down the run. 32 rushing yards per game, 3.3 yards per carry. There's a matchup edge here for K-State, combined with maybe Baylor after the big win against Oklahoma. I mean, it does concern me, this spot. Now, am I betting against Baylor? No, because they've been that good to me. I've backed them a lot. I don't have the heart to go against them, but this is a potential letdown spot, and they run the football more than they throw it on offense. Bohannon's good when he has the run game to rely on. He may not have that here because K-State's barely given up 3 yards per carry their last 3 games. So this is a dangerous game, I think, for Baylor. So I'm off the Baylor side this week, and the money's actually trickled in on K-State. And there's reasons I can understand why that would be. Connor, Mack, what do you think?
Yeah, this has pushed to Baylor a little bit, though. This open K-State -2. There's been some Baylor. I think this is a pick'em. I mean, Baylor, I don't think it moves much more now. Man, I don't know what to take here. This is a pass for me. Under. Give me the under with both defenses. Baylor looked unreal. They looked like the Baylor team from about 5 weeks ago. They were playing a lot better. That defense. Bohannon is good. He did have that pick, but after that, he's good. So that's been his problem. If he's throwing interceptions, there's problems there for Baylor. K-State at home. But they're not huge dogs. We're not catching 6 points with K-State. This is a pick'em. What a great football game. I have nothing on it. I'm probably not going to bet it, and I do lean under at 50 a little bit. Lean under.
All right, NFL whip around for Sunday. Someone asked about the Dolphins. I have already bet the Dolphins. I got -2.5 on the Dolphins. It's up to 3. That's a cheap number against this horrendous Jets team that's just absolutely in shambles right now. So I agree with the person that asked about the Dolphins game. He asked about laying the points with the Bills. I don't like that one as much. It is a playoff revenge game as well for Indianapolis. They lost to the Bills in the playoffs last year. And look, they're getting 7 points, and their offense is playing pretty well lately with Wentz. So I could lean to the Colts a little bit there in that game, but don't love it. The other bets I've made already, I'm on Houston +10.5, as ugly as it is, because, look, they at least have Taylor back now. For Tennessee, this could be the game where, like Arizona, Carolina, they just completely fall flat. This is the first time in all these weeks they're playing a bad team, and I could see them kind of, go through the motions, lethargic, lackadaisical. A spot play there for me on Houston. I'm on Arizona against Seattle. I think that loss for Seattle finished them, and Arizona probably chomping at the bit to bounce back, and they should be getting Murray and Hopkins back for this game as well. So I thought getting in front of the line move and betting Arizona early in the week was good. And I also took over 54 with Dallas, Kansas City. That number's already gone up. I mean, obviously, Patrick Mahomes got his groove back last night against the Raiders. Like I said, it's like the 90s movie, how Stella got her groove back. That game was how Patrick Mahomes got his groove back for the Chiefs offense last night. And Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense, we know, is extremely explosive and dangerous. So in theory, there should be points in that game, and it looks like people agree because that total's just gone one-way action, up and up and up. Like that one song, and it's up and it's up. That's what this total's done in the Dallas-Kansas City game, and I agree with it. Any thoughts, Connor? Sunday NFL.
Yeah, I've been looking at this last night and anything. I haven't made a bet yet, but we talked about the New England-Atlanta Thursday night. I lean under in that spot. This one's tough for me. The Lions come back after that tie. The Browns got their ass whipped. Baker Mayfield off the field. They're 10-point favorites. I lean Lions. It's crazy to say. I know it's back-to-back weeks there. The Indy spot, I like Indy with the 7. The total's interesting to me. I got to look at the weather there in Buffalo, but I think it's a little light. I lean over in that spot, 49.5. You mentioned the Dolphins. I do like that. If I have 7, I might look with the Bears. Baltimore, another touchdown favorite going on the road to Chicago. I don't know about that one. The Texans, I haven't bet it. This team has failed me after winning week 1. I took them 2 or 3 times. They shit the bed with me. So a lot of teams have done that. The NFL, we were talking about in the back, so many blowouts. What team is going to show up from week to week has been pretty crazy. And the Dallas over, you talked about that. And that was it. I don't know. That Vegas-Cincinnati's a big game. Which team? Both these teams are reeling after a couple bad losses. So that one was interesting to me. I had no bet there. But and I think Tampa Bay bounces back. It's a big number. I don't love laying big numbers. But I think they win and cover against the Giants at home.
That was red flag city last night for me with Las Vegas, that performance. They look like they are emotionally spent. All the shit they've gone through, all the bullshit off the field, John Gruden with the emails, Henry Ruggs killing someone in a stupid car accident there that he, is nonsensical, irresponsible, whatever you want to call it. And I think they're emotionally gutted, this team, with everything they've gone through. And I thought they'd bounce back from it. Like they did after the Gruden stuff, but now with this Ruggs stuff. And the thing is, too, it's not just the Ruggs incident and what it's done emotionally off the field in the locker room. It's his presence on the field they missed, too, because he's the one guy with speed at receiver, and now they can cover Waller, and now the other receivers don't scare them as much. Like, who is their most dangerous receiver right now? Renfro? I mean, my goodness. I mean, it's just it's a big hit to the receiving core, and it's easier to defend.
Jackson made the catch, and they just popped their ball right out, fumble. Yeah. Right on that line.
Yeah. Deshaun Jackson, if you're going to him for answers at receiver, right now at this point. So I'm worried. I don't want to say you fade Las Vegas the rest of the way, but I'm worried about them. That was an alarming loss. That's a spot where you're supposed to step up when you lost to the Giants the week before, and they look like they're in some trouble. I'm trying to make a case for Cincinnati in that game.
Yeah,
off a bye week as well. The Bengals.
I agree. Can the Bengals defense get fixed a little bit? They've been gashed in those 2 losses. They look pretty good early on. So that total 48.5, 49 was a little bit interesting to me. And the Raiders, you saw them just look horrible last night.
Going to be key because that defense just fell apart for the Bengals those last 2 weeks against the Jets and the Browns before the bye week. We'll see if they can get back on track. I'm leaning to them right now, Cincinnati, though, in that game. Off a bye, a chance to hit the reset button. We'll see if they can do that on Sunday. Great stuff, Connor. What a show. Great football discussion from a betting standpoint for the week ahead. 70 people watching live. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that on the way out. We'll wrap up the show in just a second, but first, messages from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right. Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Make sure you have a bite to eat, great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101 in in San Antonio. Manscaped promo code PubSports, 20% off using the promo code PubSports Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product. So check it out. Use the promo code PubSports and mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. Great time of year. All the sports in action. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit. mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All right, that's going to wrap up another great edition of Hitting the Books with me and Conor Mack. Conor, final thoughts before we sign off?
Nothing. Shout out to the chat. I have nothing really on Monday night's game. Did you have anything, Ian? This guy's asking.
I like the Rams. I'm going to stick with the Rams bounce back spot. The 49ers got pulverized by Colt McCoy and the Cardinals last week. I can't trust them. They haven't won at home yet this year either. The 49ers.
And they have a horrendous record, the 49ers. If they're a home favorite, I get why some of these sharps love them as their home dogs.
Yeah.
If I don't think this gets to 3, I'd really like the Rams. I know you could buy it down. I don't buy points down, but to me it's Rams or pass. I think San Francisco's going to show up. Big Sunday night game. It's a pass for me, but I lean Rams.
I like the Rams. I bet the Rams. So I've got a little stronger opinion on this game than Conor, but I understand the concerns. They're home dogs now, but I just haven't seen anything. I keep waiting for San Francisco to do something good, and they just don't. They're still an injury-ravaged team. Rams off a debacle against Tennessee. I think they respond. Now, Shanahan's gotten the better of McVay head-to-head the last couple of years.
Yeah, that was another thing. I think they lost 3 or 4 straight.
Yeah, for McVay to finally get the better of it, and I think they will in this game tonight. Great stuff with Conor Mack. NBA Pub Hub, 4 p.m. Eastern. Me, Ski, Dutch, Wham to break down the Monday NBA card. And then right after that, Net Profit College Basketball, 5 p.m. Eastern with Conor Mack and Maxwell Smart. Join us later this afternoon for that. Conor Mack, go ahead, Conor.
No, let's get it. Double dose. NBA, college basketball this afternoon. Be there.
NBA college hoops, indeed. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Let's have a great football week. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here for Hitting the Books on Pub Sports Radio.